What's going on, everyone? So, Scream 7, Ghostface, the killers, right? Chances are we're probably going to have multiple killers. Whether they go the cult route or they go, just the multiple killer route. Every movie's had more than one except for Scream 3. And even that movie, I still stand by that there had to have been another killer. That movie just doesn't make sense unless there's another killer. It doesn't. Like, Roman literally teleports, right? Roman was able to do his own makeup, fake his own death, and chase people around at the same time. Dude, the guy is a wizard, Harry. It's crazy, right? But let's go into the assumption that there is multiple killers, because I do think that that's a safe assumption. And whether they go the cult route or the cult idea, something that I think would be fun and fascinating. And I've talked about before, but we're getting trickled in information here and news stuff. I'm not going to spoil anything. This is just my own personal thoughts and opinions. It's not a spoiler or even like anything. But I don't hate the idea of having multiple killers and them working independently. Now, something that I've talked about is, because this is not a new concept. I've made videos about this pretty much every Scream movie, and people have thrown out the idea and stuff. But one of the things that I've expressed, particularly during Scream 5, was it won't work in Woodsboro, right? It won't work in a small town. Why, Fate, would it not work in a small town? Well, let me tell you. Because you look at a town like Woodsboro, it's so small. Like, the probability of like multiple Ghostface working independently, not knowing of each other, and then going after each other at some point is highly likely, right? When you're in a town where there's like 900 people, right? And, it's this friend group, and the killers are usually a part or associated with the friend group. It's safe to say that they're going to run into each other pretty quickly, right? So I don't think you can do it in a small town. Now, I did talk about in Scream 6 that I do think that is something that could happen, where you could have multiple killers working independently, kind of have their own motives, doing their own thing, because New York is a massive city, right? So you can have all these different things and just kind of have the main target, but the killers might not know each other or anything. They might not have connections, right? Well, depending on how big the town is and stuff like that, I do think it's something that you can get away with. It does look like it's going to be a small town, at least the town that Sydney is in. But you never know how they'll swing it, or maybe it's people from a surrounding town, right, that just have the same motive, or maybe it's one of those things where, maybe there is a Ghostface cult. Maybe there is this Ghostface group, and they put out like a message that like, hey, if you can kill Sidney Prescott, and they all have their own motives and they all have their own independent reasons and rhymes, and maybe you even get a Ghostface versus Ghostface at some point. That could be something kind of cool. I know I see a lot of people say like, we got that with Sam. I don't really count that, because it wasn't like a Ghostface versus Ghost. Yeah, she put on the Ghostface costume, but she wasn't really a Ghostface. Like, it'd be cool to kind of have like two Ghostface maybe going to kill the same person, and it's kind of like the Spider-Man meme, and it's like, hey, and now those two Ghostface have to like go after each other, or they're fighting for territory or whatever, or maybe like one stepping out of line because they're not the rank of the cult member or something like that, right? There's a lot of different ways that you kind of spin it and go about it, whether you go the cult route or not. I think if you do go the cult route, having independent killers and multiple killers would be easier to kind of work out and explain, because if they're going to go this cult idea and route, which they've already established, they've already laid the blueprints, they've already laid the foundation for, chances are you're going to have all these Ghostface from all these different areas, these different regions, right? Different cities, different towns, all that stuff. So it's safe that, hey, they probably aren't privy to each other or unaware of each other or anything like that. And two killers, kind of maybe come to the same idea, or, another killer kind of, or another Ghostface or the leader or whatever wants them to prove themselves, and they both get the idea of like, oh man, if I kill Sidney Prescott, that'll really get it, right? And there also seems to be like, there's going to be multiple reveals potentially. Like there's a lot of like direction in which they could go with this, right? So to me, like you could set up early reveals and have multiple killers that all have their own reason, all have their own motives, right? All have their own things that, that is driving them to go after Sydney and Tatum and, Mark and the family and all that stuff. And then, you can, like I said, have early reveals. You can have early Ghostface kills, right? I mean, Ghostface like dying, right? Maybe Sydney takes out a Ghostface or two, right? And now that's kind of the foundation you got there, right? Like there's so much direction in which you could go with if you were to kind of have that. And I'm somebody that I've talked about. I like the idea of Ghostface not really having any real motive, right? Like I've talked about, like The Strangers, right? One of my favorite lines ever in a horror movie was like, "Why are you doing this? Because you were home." Like that is terrifying, right? Like there's no reason for that. Like it's just, you can't explain crazy. Look, crazy is crazy, right? Like Mickey's motive was insane. It was insane. It was crazy. It didn't make any sense. I mean, so much so, Mrs. Loomis came over, right? Like Debbie Salt, she comes over. She's just like, did you believe that? Did you hear that nonsense, right? Like, talk about crazy, right? Like, and she's like, my motive is a little more simple, right? It's just good old fashioned revenge, right? Like, that's the thing. If somebody is crazy enough to just start killing people at masses, right? Like they're not sane, right? So there's no real justification. Like every killer's logic has been crazy, right? Like even the most rational ones have been crazy, And so the thing is that like instead of trying to explain crazy, I would love to kind of lean towards a ghost face that just like why are you doing this? It's like because I want to, right? I'm a big Supernatural guy, right? Supernatural has an episode, and was it season 3 where they go and they face off against these like hillbilly backwoods killer, like hills have eyes type thing, like wrong turn type thing. And yes, why are you doing this? And he's like, because it's fun, right? Like again, the terrifying, right? Like I'd love to have a killer, right? I get you have to have your motives, and many people want an explanation, but that's the beauty of having multiple killers all working independently is that you can do different things, right? Like you don't have to have the same motives or the same, like Amber and Richie had like the same vision, right? They had the same kind of idea of what they wanted, right? Where you could have these different things, and I think that could go a long way. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think that it'd be awesome? Have multiple killers all working independently, have multiple motivations and reasonings and all that stuff? Do you think no, it's a little silly, get a little convoluted, which it absolutely can. But however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.